All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for the Dan Bongino Show.
Yeah, I told you it was an op. Now the op is kicking a bunch of people in the balls who were finding out the hard way, who were really convinced that community notes and rage bots on X were real life. It's not real life. Voters are real life. Actual voters, those are real life. What do they call it, Justin? IRL now? That's IRL in real life. I told you yesterday before the show, Kentucky 4, primary yesterday, Tom Massie, Ed Galrein. I told you that Kentucky 4 voters would pick their pick and that it's very hard to oust an incumbent. It is really hard. Super hard. Not last night, it wasn't. You can talk all the smack you want, but losing by 10 points as an incumbent is really hard to do. You have to really screw up. You can talk all the shit you want today about you just lost. I'm sorry. It is an intra-party fight. We're not having this. We're not having it. It's not about loyalty to Trump. I'm going to prove it to you in the beginning of the show. It's not about loyalty to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a business guy who is very transactional, who if he sees a result will work with anyone to get there. That is not even people who he vehemently disagrees with. I'll prove it to you right in the beginning of the show. It is not about that. It's about a string of candidates who have decided to engage in bullshit, anti-Trump conspiracy theory nonsense. They throw the Jews in the mix. They try to attract a bunch of disgruntled folks out there, and they think that that's real life. It's not real life. Man, today is going to be a banger of a freaking show today. So get ready. Today's show brought to you by All Family Pharmacy, a better way to get all your prescription medications. Don't wait. Simple, safe, and secure. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bongino. Stock up today. Use code Bongino10 for 10% off today. Ivermectin, mebendazole. They got the good stuff over there. Prescription provided if appropriate. Thank you. allfamilypharmacy.com/Bongino. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at American Financing. Summertime expenses in 2026 are stacking up faster than ever. From those pricey family vacations and record gas prices to looming tuition and camp fees, for many of us, it feels like the only option is swiping the credit card, leaving you trapped in that cycle of high-interest debt. You don't want that. Homeowners, American Financing has a way out for you. It's not about shortcuts. It's about a real strategic plan to reset your finances and reclaim your budget. At American Financing, they specialize in building plans tailored specifically to your goals, your wallet, your bank account. They look at your current debt and show you exactly how your home's equity can work smarter for you. Imagine rolling that high-interest debt into one simple, manageable monthly payment. There are no upfront fees, zero pressure, just honest advice from a salary-based consultant. On average, your customers are saving $800 a month. That's real breathing room. So start today. You may even be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Even better. American Financing. They're America's home for home loans. Give them a call. Here's the number. 888-994-7660. That's 888-994-7660. Or visit them online. It's a .net address. AmericanFinancing.net/Bongino. AmericanFinancing.net/Bongino. All right, fellas. Let's get this party started. Folks, I was pretty harsh on X last night after Tom Massie lost his primary as the incumbent congressman in Kentucky 4. There's a lesson in this, folks, and the lesson is this. The lesson is that running with a bunch of failed comedians like that coward dipshit Dave Smith, who, if you've seen pictures of him that have been floating around the internet, looks like he got beat up a lot in high school. He's a tough guy, though, on X all the time. I'll end you. Yeah, you'll end us. Sure, buddy. I'm sure you've ended. I'm sure a lot of men. You've ended a lot of men, Dave. Jimmy Dore, another joker. Maybe jumping in bed with Igor Third Reichland. Maybe jumping into bed with a bunch of clowns and anti-Semitic losers with Nazi symbols and running around telling you how much they hate the Jews, blaming it for everything. Maybe it's a bad idea in a conservative primary. Maybe it's a really bad idea. It is a bad idea because let me tell you something. We've been in this movement a lot longer. This is our party. You don't get to jump into the party, come on in there, take a big shit in the punch bowl, and then wonder why we handed you your ass on the way out the door, despite being a decades-long incumbent in office. You're not us. Stop pretending. Just admit you hang out with your foreign terror river to the sea people and go hang out on the left. You're not welcome here. Get the out. We don't want you. I don't know what part of we don't want you. You're the type of people, a bunch of chumps and cowards and zeros. I feel bad. A lot of these clowns look like they got their asses kicked in high school a lot. I'm sorry. That shouldn't have happened to you. But your psychological trauma shouldn't be everybody's trauma. You don't get to come into the treehouse we built and then crap all over the place and then wonder why we tossed your ass out. You don't belong here. This is not the anti-Semitic party. It's not the racist party. It's not the anti-black, anti-Hispanic party. This is the party of universal, inalienable rights endowed by the Creator. That's our party. You never belonged here. We don't want you. I saw all the threats last night. I got tons of them last night. These people are total animals, some of them. Insane, some of the stuff they sent me last night. And they exposed the op last night fully. Go look at some of my tweets from yesterday. Read some of the comments from the Rage Bot farm. Here's the gist of a lot of them. Watch what happens in November. We'll get you back. Oh, so now you just exposed who you are. So it was never about conservatism. It was never about advancing the ball forward as a movement. It was about your one guy who that issue for you was the anti-Jew stuff. If that guy lost, you were going to charge the battlefield with us and then shoot us all in the back? Now you see why we don't want you. You're not an asset. Just get the fuck out, man. Get out. Find the door. Folks, if that's your threat, either change the party to be the anti-Jew party or we're not going to vote with you, then just get out. We don't want you. I don't know what part of this is hard to understand. See you, bye, sayonara. How many languages you need? Hasta luego? No hasta mañana. I don't want to see them. Just get out. This is not for you. I saw another thread out there. It said, well, young voters supported Massie. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, I'm not going to throw that thread out because a lot of young voters did. And if you supported him because of his prior history of libertarian leanings, that's a good thing. I actually supported Tom Massie in the past too. I did, until I found out who he really was. I worked with him. You did not. A lot of these people out there screaming on Twitter today have no idea how much of a fraud this guy was. I have never been as disappointed in a politician in my life. He claims to be a civil libertarian, and yet he destroys due process by destroying people's lives on Twitter. And then when you tell him, hey, do you want to get the facts before you engage in character assassination on Twitter? He ignores you. That's a fact. There is nothing he can say with, again, his magic tricks, pulling a rabbit out of it, that's going to change any of that. He refused to hear the truth because he wanted to destroy people and violate their due process on X. He talks about the Epstein class all the time. You know how many times when I was going through this fight, when I had hundreds of guys working on that case, do you know how many times I heard from this guy? Freaking goose egg, 0. He only cared when he thought he could attack President Trump. And that applies to other cases too. All he does is talk. Big chatterbox. The Trump's a pedophile class. You want to really? You want to start getting into the whole sexual deviant thing? Did you see who your crew is? Milo. Some of that Massie stuff that came in. You really want to go there? Getting in bed with this clown card full of losers. We don't want you. Go join the river to the sea terror crowd. They're not us. I don't know how many times you know how hard it is to lose as an incumbent? This guy's Liz Cheney 2.0. Folks, we didn't ask for this, okay? Neither the conservative movement, that has its own disagreements. They don't always align with President Trump on everything. President Trump doesn't demand loyalty from everyone. We didn't ask for this fight. We did not invite a bunch of Jew haters into the tent. You invited yourself and pissed all over the place. We don't want you here. Voters, you couldn't even win a congressional district where the guy was a decades-long incumbent. And you're telling us like, oh, we should all believe X and community notes that this is the future, man. It's not the future. I have faith in young people. I have faith in young people that we got to do a better job. You are correct in not letting them fall into this victimhood trap where, oh, blame the Jews and all stuff. We got to do a better job of that. But don't give me this bullshit. President Trump, if you don't demand loyalty, he'll throw you to the curb. That's not the case. He's endorsed candidates who haven't always aligned with him a couple of times. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Trump sees a problem with the high price of medications in America today. He sees it. So what does he do? He finds out that there may be a business solution in free markets. Mark Cuban, who endorsed Kamala Harris, he jumps on stage with them and they do a thing. I thought he demanded loyalty all the time. Then he makes a joke about it. You can't have it both ways, folks. You can't have it both ways. That he'll partner with people to get a result, but he demands loyalty and he won't partner with anyone unless you get his result. That's just not true. Check this out.
It's pretty remarkable seeing you and Mark Cuban up there, and the fact that obviously Mark endorsed Kamala Harris back in 2021.
Well, he made a mistake. It was a big mistake.
What does this say about what you two are building here?
Well, it says we love people. We love our country. He's got a good company, and he's going to do a lot of business with this.
Folks, this was an op the whole time. This whole thing was an op. You can't have it both ways with President Trump. Oh, he just didn't like Massie because he didn't agree with him the whole time. Bullshit. When you start, dancing around with dangerous bullshit, Trump's a pedophile, he's raping kids, and then people start shooting at him, you're the bad guy, bro. And then when people try to fill you in on what's actually going on when we were doing the hard work. Did you miss that whole controversy over the summer? Cut the bullshit like you pretended you didn't see everything that went on with all the conversations about how to get this material out there and the 6E stuff and the victims' names. All cut the bullshit like you didn't see it. You never came over and asked a question about it. Guy's a bullshit artist. And I'm sorry to have to tell you the truth. And if it's convenient for you to rage bot out on me, man, knock yourself out. I don't see ever the bullshit anyway. My team just knocks most of it out. Folks, it's an op. It's an effort to destroy this party from the inside, stealing the political identity politics model from the communist left and imparting it inside the Republican tent. That's what they want to do. The Republicans, they cannot destroy this, what we've built, this castle, any other way than getting people to engage in victim culture stuff. Someone did this to you, and the someone du jour now is the Jews did it. You will never see a better example of the op, what's called horseshoe theory. How you get fringes of both parties that eventually wind up, it should be called circle theory, because eventually the ends of the horseshoe connect. You'll see the fringe elements of the river to the sea terrorist left and this new wing of the fake right. You will never see a more dangerous symbiote than you will. There we go, horseshoe theory. They see it right there. That's who at Fidan Freedom there. Woke left, woke right. They say the same things. No, they don't. Really? Did you guys see this promo for the Candace Owens Hunter Biden interview? This is real. This is not AI. This is the promo for the Candace Owens Hunter Biden interview. Forget the Candace Owens portion for a second. We've already focused on a lot of that. I want you to listen how Hunter Biden, one of the biggest scumbags in the history of presidential, vice presidential children, has figured out that he can try to co-opt people on the right, air quotes, by using the Jews did. Listen, it's so obvious. This is about a minute clip. If you're falling for this, I am really sorry you have been suckered by the Biden family. And then he says something else in this clip that's even more hilarious, that his dad was never the favorite of the Epstein class elites. Your dad had Bernie Sanders wiped out in the South Carolina primary by moving the date of the primary and engaging in racial identity politics where the elites helped him to wipe out the grassroots candidate Bernie Sanders, you bullshit artist. And then he goes on to blame the Jews. And of course, the Third Reich component pretending to be part of our party. The Jews did it, man. Yeah. This was Massie's entire closing argument. I'll show you that in a second. It was this whole closing argument. The Jews. Sounds kind of like racist Democrats in the past, the blacks, the Hispanics, whatever. Sounds kind of disgusting, doesn't it? First, I want you to watch this. Here's the op right here. Here's Horseshoe theory in 1 minute. Check this out.
The DC elite of the left, they crushed my dad because he was never part of that club. He was never part of the Epstein class. You know one thing he didn't do? He didn't greenlight to turn Gaza into a Trump golf course with the maitre d' being Jared Kushner. War in Iran that they started, that every president before him was pressured by the Israelis.
And I do think there was something about the Charlie Kirk assassination that everyone just sort of looked up.
They're the people that Charlie Kirk made. The level of disloyalty or fear, I don't know what it is. And the criticism of you for asking the questions for someone who was like a brother to you, it's like, what the F are you talking about? I listen to you and I go, right on.
Who just said in the chat, mind washing, brainwashing. Folks, this is, I don't know what, I think it's, that they should just say at the beginning of that, with, you know, the little disclaimers they put on things? They should put a disclaimer. You are the victim of an ongoing psyop if you are watching this and believe a single word coming out of this person's mouth. He's just a bullshitter, no artist. Blaze 951. No, he's an artist. Remember, he did like the blowhole paintings or something and sold them for what, like $500,000? Nobody finds this unusual. The biggest scumbag in the history of presidential nuclear families is out aligning with Candace Owens with the, hey man, the Jews did. And you believe Hunter Biden now? If you do, I'm going to tell you what I said in the beginning. Please get them out. We don't want you in our movement. We are not the Hunter Biden party. We're not the we hate the Jews party. We're not the we hate the Muslims party or the Christians party or the evangelicals party either. There's a whole wing of this that hates the evangelical Christians too. Oh, they're not real Christians. Really, they're not? I've been warning you about this forever. So what do these people do? They attack me. Oh, nothing happened over there. Oh, go fuck yourself, you dumb sons of bitches. You damn well know there's a laundry list of massive changes the left's been complaining about. The only argument you have is don't tell people what happened. If you tell them what happened, then they'll know change happened. We don't want that because then they'll look like the good guys. That's all you guys got. Yet your hero didn't do jack shit. Never heard a word from this guy on any of this stuff. Oh, yeah. You want to see what his closing argument was? Tom Massie? The guy lost by 10 points. Donor money. Oh, he didn't have donor money? You're telling me telling me Massie didn't have donor money too? You sure you want to go there on that one? But is this incumbents in U.S. congressional primaries win renomination at typically over a 98% rate for the House? Yeah, he didn't. He lost by 10. Here's Massie last night. Total scumbag move. But this is who he is. This is the guy. I could not believe how disappointed I was when I met this. I'm telling you, like, levels of disappointment in politicians are usually pretty high. This guy broke the scale because I had defended this guy, even under relentless attacks from other people. I thought, maybe he's got principles. He has zero. He is about one thing, and that's Massie. Well, he's about two things. The Jews. Here he is last night in one of the most disgusting grotesque, just horrifying comments I've heard at a concession where, of course, he lost. Check this out.
I would have come out sooner, but I had to call my opponent and concede, and it took a while to find Ed Galrein in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, that's real funny. That's real funny, douchebag. This guy is such a loser. I can't even tell you. Folks, I tilt strongly towards the civil libertarian component of the conservative wing if you're looking at it on some kind of Klein there. I have never been so disappointed in a human being. Really. The Jews, again. Well, Dan, how do you know this was his closing argument? Because yesterday he was on Fox. Yesterday was election day where he lost by 10. Here was Tom Massie on Fox yesterday, and I want you to listen again. This is his closing argument in a conservative primary in Kentucky, trying to make an argument to people who believe in faith, family, and freedom that somehow their political problems, again, are the Jews. This is his closing argument yesterday, and you wonder why he lost? Check this out.
People are smart enough to understand that this is Israel trying to buy an election. Miriam Adelson has spent so much money on my election, they're going to have to scale down that ballroom that she was paying for. And she was born in Israel. The Republican Jewish Coalition and the American Israel Public Affairs Committee have spent millions of dollars in this race on a guy that's never showed up for a single debate. They think they can buy Kentuckians. They think they can buy this seat because they tried to buy my vote and I wouldn't sell it. And they're finding out it's real expensive. And what they're going to find out is they can't afford to buy this seat in Kentucky.
Okay. Again, this guy, this was his entire closing argument. Not your wallet, not your health care, not your kids' education, government overregulation. I'm not telling you he's not concerned about this stuff. That was his entire closing argument. You want more receipts? Here he was yesterday, election day on CBS. Again, the Jews. Check this out.
If the president had merely endorsed a warm body, that's his affectionate term for my opponent, it's a warm body from Central Casting, I would have won 60-40. The difference in this race, what people need to watch, is it's a referendum on whether the Israeli lobby can buy a seat in Congress and how much they're willing to spend to try, and in order to intimidate the entire Republican Party into having zero dissension on foreign policy toward Israel.
Yeah, there's zero dissension on foreign policy. Yeah, you're correct. Everybody is universally aligned in the exact same foreign policy for every country in the world. Do you actually believe that? Folks, do you really want to align with Hunter Biden and that, test case for GLP 1 through 3s, Kanksaur Uyghur? Do you really want to align with these losers? The Hunter Biden, Kank Uyghur from the Young Turds Party? Kank Uyghur, him and Dave Smith, the two fakest tough guys I've ever seen in my life. Hold on, I'll end you, bro. And Kank Uyghur always screaming like, give me a yodel. You keep this guy from his ho-hos and he loses his mind. Here's Kank. Here he is on Piers Morgan's show, showing you Kank Uyghur doesn't give a shit about anything other than the talking point, the Jews. Kank Uyghur, by the way, loved Tom Massie. I wonder if Hunter Biden did too. Here's Kank on Piers Morgan's show. The guest on the show brings up this very disturbing statistic that there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of cases of these Pakistani rape gangs in these Muslim communities in the UK, raping women. I thought all you guys cared about was Epstein and pedophiles. And yet now we've got this case going on now. And watch Kank's response. Oh, no, that's not real, man. That's not a real number. Watch, you really want to align with these people? Check this out.
It's an outrageous thing to say about him, but it's not outrageous to say about all Muslims.
No, but the point...
No, it's much more outrageous to say it about all Muslims. The only reason you would think it is if it's a fantasy in your head. Yeah, Don, you think about it all the time, don't you?
It's not my statistic. It's it's the British government statistic. 250,000 plus girls in the last 25 years have been raped by predominantly Pakistani Muslim men. That was Lord Malcolm Pearson in the House of Lords who said that. It was not me, so don't get mad at me you go get mad at Lord Malcolm Pearson.
Can I just tell you this sophistry, this trick that they do? So they do it here in America with immigrants. I don't know anything about that number.
Of course he doesn't know anything about that number because all he believes in is the talking points. You want to align with these fucking crazy lunatics? Folks, you want this party to go down in flames, then this fall in this, we hate the Jews stuff. It pops up. Man, I've been in this thing since 2015. It's not an eternity, but it's a long time to be doing this. On radio, on TV, writing for Conservative Review, podcasting, inside the government, outside the government. You trust me, don't trust me, it's up to you. Some of you here, I assume you and I share a lot in common. This bullshit pops up on our side, air quotes, every few years or so. It gets squashed because conservatives don't want it. And then they come back under a new blanket years later. You want to align with this guy, this Graham Plattner guy too? You notice these lefties and righties, horseshoe theory, are saying the exact same thing. Unearthed posts showed a Dem Senate hopeful praising vulgar graffiti, making a crude porta potty admission. You don't even want to see what the Nazi tattoo guy in this article was doing in the porta potties or admitting it. It involves self-gratification. You want that guy on your team? He's saying the same things. He's got the Nazi tattoos. I thought Nazi tattoos were bad. I'm pretty sure that's a bad thing. You want to align with this lady? Was this Galinas? Melinda Galinas? So look at his tweet. I had to check on this, make sure this was correct. Texas 35 Democratic candidate Maureen Galindo says she will convert ICE detention centers in Karnes County into an internment camp for American Zionists. It will also be a castration processing center for pedophiles, which will probably be most of the Zionists, she added. What is going on? Now, you can pout on X for your community notes all you want. Rage out. Clearly, the amount of Fs I give is 0, or I wouldn't keep talking about it. If I cared and gave even a single F about what you losers trying to infiltrate our moment, that slob Barnes and embarrass that other goofball, if anyone cared about what you're saying, you guys would actually win something. You're screaming in a void. Today will be Epstein. Trump's a pedophile. They don't have anything else. Nothing's happening. And then we roll out results like this. Put that tweet up, Kash Patel. Nothing's happening. Maybe nothing's happening. Then we roll out results like this, and you just ignore it. Thanks to DC Reporter, historic results, 20% drop in the national homicide rate, 112% increase in violent crime arrests, 31% more fentanyl seized, 30% more child abusers off the American streets. I thought people cared about that stuff. Results have been so unbelievable. The New York Post even put up a piece about it. Like, hey, man, it kind of sounds like stuff is happening. But I thought these slobs, these GLP-1 test cases, Kank and others, they tell you nothing's happening. And suckers fall for it. FBI announces U.S. violent crime rate plummeted by the fastest rate in nearly 90 years. The changes are working. Change? I thought there were no changes. I thought nothing was happening. And by the way, for all the haters out there, again, rage out, mother. Rage out. But they could crash out, rage out, Papa Xanax. I don't know what you need to do. But we're doing just great, man. We're doing just fine. This article up in Fidelity yesterday about podcasts and podcast rankers. Top podcast by average weekly downloads. Look at it, number 3. I know that guy, Dan Bongino Show. Even our network was number 3. Whatever, self-praise things. I'm just telling you all your bullshit about, his show is fair. Some asshole on X was like, hey, Grok, how's Dan Bongino's views? I retweeted it. There was like, Grok was like, yeah, man, they're doing really great. I actually retweeted with a little salute. I'm sorry, man. Just love to hear how You watch, we'll get you tomorrow. You said that yesterday and the day before. You're living in a series of tomorrows, except for living in the today that matter. You know what? Read that Oprah Winfrey Eckhart Tolle book she promoted, The Power of Now. Maybe try living in today. We'll get you tomorrow. Maybe we'll send one of our losers over there. That's just the stuff we got to deal with every day. All because we have this simple idea like maybe we should vote on issues and stop playing victim politics like the left and trying to blame our problems on the Jews or anyone else. And that applies to anyone. Oh, this was great. Yeah, someone's like, hey, Grok, tell us how Dan Bongino's show is crashing out. Grok was like, okay, Dan Bongino's viewership has been consistently strong in conservative media. I retweeted. Strong return, relaunched on Rumble, exclusive, hit 3 on Triton. Rumble channel now at 3.64 million followers. Recent episodes pull 500,000 views quickly. Overall trend dipped during the government break. Well, of course it dipped. I wasn't here. But quick rebound to top tier numbers. Thanks, guy. I'm surprised that guy didn't delete his tweet. Douche. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. There's a lot more to talk about. Yesterday was a big day. Huge endorsement coming out of Texas, too. I'm going to tell you what it means, and I'm going to contrast it with what happened with Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban endorsed Kamala Harris, but Cuban has this free market-oriented, drug sale company where they're looking at, and Trump said, hey, man, those values align with me too. I'm looking to lower the price of healthcare. You can't tell me he demands loyalty and then watch what happened yesterday. But he is also sensitive to the base. And I think that's Trump, spreadsheets Trump, how he understands. He doesn't get emotional about things. He doesn't. He's an emotional guy, but he's not get emotional about decisions. And that's what I want. I don't need any more flowery speeches. I don't care that he speaks discursively. I care about results. Show you what I mean coming up in a second. Hey, here's a question. How many brokers does it take to insure your business? Here's the answer. A lot right now, unless you go with SuperSure. Supersure.com/Bongino. If you're like most business owners, the answer is too many. Multiple policies, multiple applications, and no clear view of how it all fits together. When questions come up, it's not easy to get the clarity you need. Well, SuperSure changes all of that. SuperSure. One broker for all your business insurance, backed by a team that works with you year-round, not just at renewal. And if you've ever stared at a policy wondering what it actually covers, SuperSure has a fine print fax tool. It's really cool. Translate all that legal mumbo-jumbo and jargon into plain English so you know what's covered and what's not. Kind of important. Right now, if you go to supersure.com/Bongino, you'll get a full report on your current policies with no obligation. Check it out. Find out if you're overinsured, underinsured, or somewhere in between. Go to supersure.com/Bongino. One super agency, one powerful platform, all your policies in one place. Go to supersure.com/Bongino. That's supersure.com/Bongino. Check it out. Great tools on the site. Consult with a licensed insurance producer to discuss coverage options for your specific business needs. Paid for by Supersure Insurance, LLC, a licensed insurance agency. Thank you, Supersure. So yesterday was a big endorsement day. This is clearly Donald Trump's party moving forward. You can argue it all you want. You can crash out, rage out. The bottom line is results matter, okay? How are we going to do in the midterms, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know how we're going to do in the midterms. Presidents typically don't do well, incumbent presidents with their party in the midterms. That's just a historical fact. How are we going to do? I can't predict the future, but I am going to tell you this. We're going to go in with a team that doesn't stab each other and knife each other in the back and blame people for their problems. That's not the team we're going in to play this game with. Sorry. It's a big endorsement day yesterday. President endorsed, and folks, when this came out, a lot of people, there was an announcement. I've always kind of told people, if you're in the content creation space or you have a services industry, the best thing to do about an announcement, even a product industry, is to make an announcement about the announcement. That way you get 2 bites at the apple, right? Donald Trump did this yesterday. President Trump said earlier in the day, we're going to be making a big announcement about the Texas Senate race. Everybody thought it was going to be Cornyn. Everyone. A couple of friends of mine were like, man, I can't believe he's going to go for Cornyn. Well, that didn't happen. He endorsed Ken Paxton because President Trump is not emotional about this stuff. He's a spreadsheets guy. The base and the energy was largely behind Ken Paxton. So don't tell me he's not responsive to people in the base either. That's bullshit. Where do you think this endorsement came from? Every freaking institutionalist in D.C. wanted him to endorse Cornyn. So regardless of where you stand on this race, there's been a lot of attacks. The Wall Street Journal was really pissed about this yesterday. implying that like Paxton was like a weak statewide candidate. Paxton's won multiple statewide races. I don't know what you're talking about. Here was Ken Paxton on with Andrew Colvett, who now hosts the Charlie Kirk Show, talking about exactly this fact. Colvett asked him about this. Hey, man, there's some bullshit out there that you can't win statewide. He's like, what evidence do you have to back that up? The receipts actually matter? They do to me. Check this out.
Let's just call out the elephant in the room here, Ken. You've got people in the party, in the establishment, especially in D.C., that say you can't win a general, you can't win a race, you're too conservative, you're too America first, you're too MAGA, you can't win against Talrico, right? What's your response to that?
Well, the first thing is they told Donald Trump the same thing, right? That he couldn't win. They've told me that I've run in 3 general elections in Texas. That means the entire state had to vote. And in each of those, with little money, I outperformed what everybody expected me to do. I competed equally with other Republicans that had 100 times the money that I had. I get outspent by a lot of money, and yet I've always performed better than these naysayers talk about. There's no polling that suggests that what they're saying is true.
What is that in the chat? Oh, I missed it. Someone said in the chat, they're talking about Graham Plattner, Nazi tattoo guy up in Maine. They said, flogging the dolphin in a porta potty. Nasty. Yes, very nasty. Disgusting. We don't belong with these people. That obviously does not apply to Ken Paxton. He's a good candidate. Listen, every candidate's got pluses and minuses. I understand there's always going to be baggage there. However, you're telling me Talarico on the other side doesn't have baggage? Remember that thing? Yeah. No, Courts. Good job, Courts. We are going to go in to this team fight, Team Democrat versus Team Republican, with the team we want and need, not a bunch of saboteurs. We're not doing it. Ken Paxton was largely the choice of the base, and now you see it. All I'm asking people is don't get emotional about this stuff. Don't get emotional. No matter what happened in Kentucky 4, I'm never going to tell you vote for the Democrat over the Republican. I'm not going to tell you that. I've said that 1,000 times. Been on the air a long time. I've been through a lot of, and I love how everybody keeps with their bullshit. Oh, we're sitting it out. We're going to let the communists win. That's not going to happen, man. Okay. And if it does happen, that's your issue. You're the one who chose that. You're the voters. It is consent to the governed. You chose communists and your kid's future to be flushed down the toilet. This is like the 100th primary like this we've been through. Where everybody, you make a political choice, there's a counterparty that's going to be pissed off. Don't get in the political business if you don't want to take a stance. Like getting in the sports commentator business and you're friends with the quarterback and you don't want to criticize the quarterback. Just get out of the business. Folks, don't let TDS take over your life. Trump derangement syndrome is a very real thing. If you missed yesterday's show, the interview at the end with Jonathan Alpert, he's a psychotherapist. He was on for about 20 minutes. He was talking about his new book, Therapy Nation, how he gets these people in his psychotherapy practice who just cannot divorce these liberals, their political life from their personal life. They are so infected with the TDS virus that this just unimaginable rage comes out. This is a real thing. RFK was on a podcast talking about this yesterday, how people in his own family. Ladies and gentlemen, it's okay to make a political decision that's not popular in your family or your community and still have friends. It's okay. Let's not emulate the crazy TDS libs and make our entire lives about a political decision. Check this out.
The president said the other day that Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. And I believe that it is. I've seen it in my own family. I've seen, how people put politics ahead of family, ahead of their core values. And I've seen it in my friendships. I've lost a lot of friendships, probably 90% of them. And people who I loved and trusted and, who I thought would take a bullet for me, calling me on the phone or approaching me and saying, I cannot be your friend anymore. And it's because of the political choices you've made. And it just seems like a warped worldview. So I don't know, how you get through that, how you unravel an orthodoxy. I know it's been done in history before, but it's really an interesting anthropological phenomenon.
Ladies and gentlemen, please don't fall in love with speeches or candidates. Fall in love with results, and you will never go wrong. Your compass will always point true north. Hat tip Alex Marlow for that interview with RFK. Imagine losing members of your own family because they disagree with a political outcome. By the way, you don't need those family members. I'm really sorry to tell you that. You want to hear Dan Bongino's unpopular opinion? If you have so-called friends that think so little of you that they don't like the fact that you voted for President Trump, they were not your friends to begin with. They were just going to sell you out anyway. You don't need those people in your life. Fall in love with results. Don't fall in love with candidates. When you fall in love with results, you will not get overly emotional about every changing of the political winds. He was President Trump yesterday. Again, the guy's he's a builder and a transactional deal maker. Yesterday, he's out there trying to lower drug prices through a free market solution with a guy who endorsed his opponent because he understands the need to produce results and not start crying and pissing in your diaper every time your chosen guy doesn't win. Here he is yesterday talking about the construction project at the White House, which, by the way, people have spoken about in the Secret Service and WAMO, the White House Military Office, for years. I don't even want to get into it on the show because I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but there were a lot of security concerns at the White House. It was built a really long time ago. It was not built for modern threats. It was not built for drone attacks. The president's like, we're just going to do it. So here he is talking about it yesterday. This is the transactional business guy. We need no more bullshit and all this speeches and stuff. Just do it. Check this out.
All of this was paid for by myself, and because I keep hearing we are making a gift of this one. This is a gift. This is not going to be paid for by the taxpayer. And we have a judge that thinks it's a terrible thing that we're making a gift. He said it's terrible that we're making a gift that should be paid for by the taxpayer. That's one I've never heard before. I'm sure maybe he doesn't understand. This is a gift to the United States of America. And more than a gift, it's going to be one of the most beautiful buildings that's ever been built in the country or in Washington, D.C.
Now, why would I play this clip right before the clip I'm about to play? Because the show is about results. Notice over President Trump's shoulder, and if you had your ears open there, you can hear the sound of construction cranes. You can hear the sounds of construction going on in the back. Stuff is getting done. He's at the construction site saying, look what we did. Reminds me of Tom Cruise in Kessler. Look at what we have created when he's got the fire and the palm frond or whatever. Look, this is what he's actually doing stuff. Compare and contrast that, because we've got a race in November that's going to be a dogfight in the midterms with our alternatives. The at least nominal head right now of the Democrat Party is Gavin Newsom, probably the worst governor in the country based on results. I want you to watch a clip of an interview he gives yesterday. This is the left summed up. You got Donald Trump finally doing something people have talked about for years, building this national treasure that was needed for security reasons and everything else around the White House. After all the talk, construction cranes moving. Here's Gavin Newsom basically admitting that we're not even about winning arguments anymore. He's basically telling you what I told you. They are all about emotion, licking their fingers, seeing when they can get people riled up and the winds are changing. They don't give a shit about results. California has an epidemic of horrible results on homelessness, on crime, on the economy, on California state debt, on the bond market over there. It's terrible. Education, all of it. So he basically says, I'm done arguing. Basically implies we're just going to go for the emotion and the tyranny type stuff instead. Check this out.
We have to win. It's all on the line. You just got to win. I'm done winning arguments. With all due respect to the niceties, it feels good, but we're going to lose our republic. Again, the founding fathers did not live and die for this moment. I can't celebrate July 4th, the best of Roman Republic and Greek democracy, co-equal branches of government, popular sovereignty, the rule of law, not at the time where it's the rule of Don.
He's basically forfeited the argument in advance. The prelude to the entire movie is don't bother watching the movie. We don't really care. Here, it's on Fox right now. Newsom urges Dem Party to fight fire with fire. What fire? What are you talking about? What are you going to burn the White House down? Does it take the War of 1812? Yeah, right now. Look at that. Here was Hakeem Jeffries yesterday. It looks like he was at the same conference, too. That was, that's so funny. It's on Fox right now, too. Hakeem Jeffries going full Ivan Drago. Remember Rocky IV? I must break you. This is the party. This is why we have to get our shit together, get all organized here, get out 10, 10, and 10 before the midterm elections. Email 10 people, make 10 social media posts, and call 10 people. It is an easy thing to ask. We cannot lose a vast majority. So are we going to lose a few? We are. It's very difficult in midterms. However, do not forfeit this race in advance. The doomers and the black pillars who wanted to destroy our party lost big last night. Don't let them win. Here's Hakeem Jeffries yesterday going full Drago, Rocky IV. This is what you're dealing with in November. Check this out.
Either MAGA extremists are going to break the country or we're going to break them. And our goal is to break them. We will defeat them. We have to beat them electorally, and then we have to break their spirit because of the extremism that's being unleashed on the American people. That's completely and totally unacceptable.
Notice they don't produce any specifics or results they disagree with. It's purely nonsense, bullshit, hyperbolic rhetoric meant to get their party all riled up, and then some of their people go and start shooting places up. Folks, we got a real fight on our hands. Yesterday's over. It's time to move on. I'm glad it ended the way it did because that's not our party, and a statement had to be made, and believe me, it was made. But it is time to move on. And to focus on what matters in November is critical right now. We are going to go into this game and we are going to play with the team we want, not these guys that come in and, again, piss all over the locker room. We're not doing that. And where are they getting all this from? Why are these crazy, sick, Ivan Drago-like ideas that this is the end of the world? It's the Manichaean end of times if we don't defeat Donald Trump in the midterms. They're getting this from cultural little icons to them and academia telling you Donald Trump's a fascist and all this other stuff. How many people are there, too? It sounds Tony 250 in the chat. It sounds like it, right? As I clap, this is what you hear, like a little golf clap from someone. You don't know that actor, that guy, Sebastian Stan from the Marvel movies? He plays, what's that character? Bucky, yeah, Winter Soldier guy or something. He's doing this Donald Trump movie. And he's out there. I want you to listen again to this, like the tone and the rhetoric that these people buy into, that the psychotherapist on the show yesterday was talking about as to why these TDS-infected liberals come in their office and think it's the end of times. Because that's all anybody tells them. Hollywood, academia, their little circle of Karen friends. Check this out.
It's just not a laughing matter, to be honest. It isn't. It's, I think we're in a really, really bad place. I really do. And to be honest with you, it's like when you're looking at what's happening, right, which is, if we're talking about the consolidation of the media, censorship, the threats, the supposed lawsuits that seemingly never end but don't actually go anywhere. The writing was on the wall. We encountered all that with the movie. To the point where we were 3 days before the festival unsure if the movie was going to play at the festival. So, it's maybe people are paying attention more to that film. I think it will stand the test of time for that. But we went through all of it way before Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and so on,
Now, I want to do a compare and contrast because the foil matters. Ladies and gentlemen, campaigns are snapshots and sound bites and contrasts. Please do not think anything else. Look at the Spencer Pratt campaign, other campaigns. People are not voting on white papers. They aren't. They're busy. They've got kids' Little League games to go to, volleyball games, whatever. They don't have time to read a 6,000-page manifesto on marginal tax policies. They just don't have the time. It's not that they're not interested. They don't have the time. Campaigns are short pictures, images, snapshots, and sound bites. Short clips. That's all it is. Those snapshots and sound bites should create a contrast. Here is why I'm good. Here's why my opponent's bad. That is what a campaign should be. Very simple. Do not overcomplicate it. It's a binary. I play that clip about this deep, dark, end of the world, Manichaean talk by the left all the time. It's over. It's not. What are you talking about? There's never been a better time to be alive, more prosperous time to be alive than live in America right now. What are you even talking about? Tell that to the American warriors who fought in the trenches of World War I. And, oh my God, such a terrible time to be alive now. Really? Really? Tell people how to deal with the threat of in the Cuban Missile Crisis of a Russian nuclear missile hitting the United States when it was real over that course of a little over a week. Tell them, like, oh, this is the worst time to be alive. Get out of here with that shit. Here's J.D. Vance yesterday, who getting crushed it. Our bench is deep. Our bench is deep. Here's Vice President Vance yesterday, sat in for Caroline Leavitt, who's still out on maternity leave. And at the end, he's asked a question about religion and faith. Listen to the way our people talk. Rubio, Vance, President Trump, about how great the United States is. And the other side, the winter soldier cat, Gavin Newsom. We don't have to argue anymore. F that. Hakeem Jeffries, who goes full of Andre, I will break you. Then you got this, he thinks he's in a movie. Sebastian Stan forgot he's in a movie, he's talking in real life. Listen to the way J.D. Vance talks about religion and stuff. Our bench is deep. Their bench is full of little mini authoritarians. Check this out.
The principle of religious violence is particularly disgusting, especially in the United States of America. And as a devout Christian, I would say it's one of the most anti-Christian things and anti-American things that you could do. And here's why. One, because a fundamental principle of all the great faiths is we are all children of God. And because of that, we are endowed by certain rights that are unique to our status as human beings. You violate those rights, most importantly, when you commit violence against another person. You can violate them in other ways as well, but the most profound way to violate the fundamental right of human dignity is to commit violence. But here's why the religious piece of it is particularly egregious. One of the fundamental American rights that I think came from our Christian heritage as a civilization is the idea that we respect people's religious freedom, in part because we respect them as human beings, but also because we respect their right to find their own pathway to God. You can't force anybody to a pathway to God. They have to, through their own free will, find God themselves. That's one of the reasons why that right of religious freedom is the very first right enshrined in our Constitution.
The vice president, you guys see like an index card in front of him or like a teleprompter? No, because he talks like a normal person who believes in the cause of America, just like Rubio did. In contrast to Newsom, we don't need to win arguments anymore. F it, we're done. Folks, I got a lot more show here for you too. I'm going to switch gears a little bit right now because campaigning, as I said, is about creating the contrast I just painted for you. Here's J.D. Vance talking about the glories of freedom and freedom of religion, the ability to worship, the horrors of religious violence. And then you got these other goofballs. I'm going to break you, all this other shit. Contrast. How do we do it? We do it online. And the reason the Republican Party has been succeeding is because there is an army of folks out there who understand how to use social media and elsewhere. Folks, rage bots do not win campaigns. Real people, real ads, that's how it works. Now, we've been promoting the show for a long time. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, if you were involved in an activist campaign, content creation, there's this thing out there called clipping. We use it. Other shows use it. It's just a way to market your show. If you're not marketing your show, you're losing. You clip segments of the show to create sound bites and snapshots because some people just don't have the time to watch the entire, hour and a half, 2 hour podcast sometimes. They just don't. Matter of fact, I read an article that the most popular podcast in the world, Joe Rogan, that a lot of people just consume his show and TikTok in bits. Here's Kevin O'Leary on the value of this. Now, I play this here because if you're in political organizing too, we saw last night, rage bots don't work. Rage bots, calling people pedophiles and all this other stuff. It's a zero. You're going to lose. Fake community notes. You're going to get your ass handed to you. Put some time into real quality clips and content development, And you'll be able to measure the metric on the output side, whether it's votes or whether it's business success. Listen to this. It's an important clip if you're in business or in politics. Check this out.
I think the job that gets you the most money now is if you have talents in social media for customer acquisition. I used to pay those guys $48,000 a year, and now they're $250,000 because you can measure their work based on customer acquisition every week. So most of them become contractors. They make $500,000 a year because they know how to take content, turn it into a 59-second ad on social, and acquire 200 customers. That's a very specific. So remember, everybody say you have to be an engineer. Now you want to be an artist again. Write stories, acquire customers, know how the social media platforms work, know how to post on TikTok versus LinkedIn versus Twitter versus Instagram. Those people in their early 20s are so valuable now. So if you know how to use your phone, somebody wants to hire you.
Snapshots and sound bites, folks. Create a contrast. It works in business too. Why pick my product, my pet rock, over this team's pet rock? Why? One of the things I was told early on that was really helpful for me early on in doing the show is that the left is better at creating an emotional response to their political arguments because a lot of their people who are donors are in spaces that require creativity. A lot of them are artists. A lot of them are Hollywood people. It requires ingenuity and creativity. A lot of folks who are on the Republican side are, high operating leverage businesses in the petrochemical space. And it's not really about marketing. It's more about like efficiencies in business. So a lot of them aren't as creative. We have to get creative. This younger generation of people, which I said in the beginning of the show, we can't forfeit. We're going to need them for their creativity online. Don't forfeit that argument. And don't sell them short that the only way out is selling them like, oh, this group of people really did horrible stuff. You should blame them. That's leftist bullshit. And one of the movements I'm really proud that has taken hold inside the Republican MAGA tent is the MAHA movement, the Make America Healthy Again movement. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not just about physical health. It's about spiritual health. Do you see this news report? You're seeing this just rejuvenation of spirituality in the United States. And I'm seeing a lot of younger folks too. If you go on Instagram, you see tons of these. Jasmine got me into this. This religious, I don't want to call it even gospel music, but religious-oriented music. You see like hundreds and thousands of these kids singing along. There's been a spiritual revival in the United States. That's part of this MAHA movement too. Not everything is your physical health. You got to see this story I saw out in Florida, out in Hanna Park. A mass baptism on the beach. I've seen this on college campuses too. It's amazing, even at Auburn. Check this out.
More than 2,000 people baptized during the Church of 1122's annual beach baptism at Hanna Park. Take a look. This video shows the thousands of people from across the First Coast that took part in the major event. The church tells us around 2,500 people were baptized.
I love to see that. I love to see that. You're not beyond saving, folks. I am not your preacher. I am not your moral compass. I can't say that enough. However, I can proudly say that if I'm not beyond saving, you're not beyond saving. There is a spiritual revival going on inside this MAHA movement too. These younger folks, don't sell them short. Just give them another option. Don't teach them to learn to be helpless. Give them an out and they'll take it. The MAHA movement is strong. I like these little MAHA moments. You got our little MAHA moment thing? I know you guys are very proud of this. Here's another one coming up for you. You know I'm obsessed with these health hacks. This is a good one. Check this out.
Freezing bread before toasting, pass or keep?
Oh, that's a keep for sure.
Why?
When you freeze bread, there is a process that happens in the starch. So the starch is the one that really spikes your blood sugar. It's called starch retrodegradation. That means that the starch starts to change into something called resistant starch. What is resistant starch? Food for our gut bacteria, acts like fiber, and lowers the glycemic impact.
So leave your bread in the freezer, essentially.
And then when you want to toast it like you would usually toast it, you can do that with bagels, you can do that with bread, you can even do the overnight refrigerating thing. You could do that with pasta, with potatoes, with rice.
Really? So pasta, potatoes, rice, freezer.
That goes in the refrigerator.
Oh, refrigerator.
The bread goes in the fridge.
Folks, this trick 100% works. It is the easiest thing ever. Yes, you may have to cook the food the day before, but you're going to cook it anyway, so who cares? Make a big pot of white rice, if that's what you eat. Stick it in the freezer. The reheating process makes it really resistant, harder to digest. You eat up a lot of the calories in the digestion process. This totally works. Paul and I do this all the time. Bread in the freezer. Easiest trick ever. Maha moment of the day. That's what I'm here for. I love me some life hacks because I'm 51 years old. I don't have any shortcuts anymore. Everything's got to be like tough for me now. That one's an easy one, however. It works. I promise you. All right, I got Vince Co-l-a-n-ese coming up in a minute. We're going to talk Paxton. We're going to talk the Massie victory. We're going to talk TDS. We got a whole bunch to discuss. You know we love Vince. Folks, you know I'm not a big gambler, but I've been having a lot of fun looking at marketplace predictions. I was last night for everything from politics to sports. Kalshi, K-A-L-S-H-I, is where I get the best insight on predictions. From sports to politics to finance or any variety of markets people are monitoring. Kalshi.com is a bookmark you need, I use. I featured them in my last election special. They were spot on. Our president was elected as predicted. Kalshi.com is one of the only places where you can trade on real world events in all 50 states. Go to Kalshi.com/Bongino. Get a free $10 credit when you trade $100. It's not just politics or economics. They've got markets on everything from sports to pop culture to climate predictions. Kalshi has a pulse on what the world thinks will happen. Go to Kalshi.com/Bongino. Get a free $10 credit when you trade $100. That's Kalshi, Kalshi.com/Bongino. Bet they were busy yesterday. You must be 21, and the purchaser must be present in the state where the trade is placed. See important disclosures at Kalshi.com. Kalshi is subject to U.S. regulatory oversight by the CFTC. Welcoming back to the show for his bi-weekly appearance, the great Vince Co-l-a-n-ese dominates the mornings on live streaming. 8 a.m. Eastern Time, rumble.com/Vince had another huge audience today. Congratulations on all the success of Vince. So last night, another set of resounding victories for President Trump and his primary endorsements. The big headline race, obviously, Congressman Tom Massie losing his primary by 10 points. However, it wasn't just that. There were a number of Trump candidates in runoffs that did well in runoffs in Georgia. The Georgia Supreme Court race went well. You had a number of big, obviously the Cassidy loss. This is clearly a Republican Party moving in the more MAGA direction now.
No question at all. President Trump had a huge night. I think one count Fox had was something like 30 races that all went Trump's direction or are now headed to runoffs with Trump's favored guy in the lead, which is great. And it's a clear sign that President Trump and his agenda has a tremendous amount of momentum. I'd say the three things, at least that I was highlighting this morning in my notes, of course, the Thomas Massie race, a resounding defeat for Thomas Massie. I could talk about that a little bit more with you in a moment. Then I look at Andy Barr winning in Kentucky to become the guy who's going to replace Mitch McConnell. We're looking for a change of pace from Mitch McConnell, a dramatic one. And Mitch McConnell's been in that seat for a billion years. And, Nate Morris was in that race for a while, a great candidate. Charlie Kirk had endorsed him. Wonderful. President Trump said, hey, would you do me a favor, Nate? Will you jump out of this race? I'll give you an ambassadorship. But what we want is somebody to really clean up here. I think Andy Barr can do it. Nate Morris does the endorsement of Andy Barr as well. And this guy just sails through, dominates Daniel Cameron, which is great. And if this ends up being what President Trump is promising, a massive break from the Mitch McConnell era, which will dramatically improve the United States Senate. And then finally, just another smaller race, but an important one. In Georgia, Brad Raffensperger just got thrown out of the governor's race and ending a saga of drama where Raffensperger was just really a gigantic pain in the ass, I think, as President Trump was rightly raising all sorts of concerns about election fraud in 2020. I think what we've seen is the end of Raffensperger's time in politics. So, tremendous amount of energy for the president's picks yesterday.
Vince, in your time observing politics, I mean, it's not a sports show, it's a politics show. Have you ever seen an endorsement carry this much weight? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. I bet if you thought about it, maybe someone comes in second or third. I haven't seen even a close second. I mean, I remember when Sarah Palin was at the peak of her popularity post McCain. That endorsement got some attention. I don't know if it carried the tactical winning weight. I'm pretty sure it didn't. But it definitely carried with it some earned media cachet. But I've never seen anything like this where, his endorsement, even when you factor out cases where maybe there was an endorsement, but the guy was favored in advance.
Yeah.
I mean, even like the Ron DeSantis gubernatorial, the original gubernatorial, he was behind a bit. And Trump comes in and endorses him, and boom. I mean, his endorsement is just the gold standard.
I totally agree. And I don't think we've ever seen anything like it. And in fact, the prospect of a Trump endorsement gets political candidates to actually change their views to something that matches what Americans actually want. And I'll give you an example of it. It's John Cornyn. We just saw this huge endorsement yesterday for Ken Paxton that we could dive into a little bit. But I just to comment on this particular question, when President Trump withholds his endorsement from both Cornyn and Paxton earlier this year, and Cornyn's like, what the hell? I wanted the endorsement. Cornyn instantly starts coming out and going, I'm for the Save America Act. I'm for getting rid of the filibuster. I'm for doing the standing filibuster, whatever it takes. Suddenly, the guy is singing from our hymnal. He's singing from this base's hymnal. Like, I'm all for those things. And the reason for that is because of how desperate he is for that Trump endorsement, because he does know that it carries tremendous weight. President Trump's voters take him very seriously. They keep voting for him. They've now voted for him 3 times for president of the United States, and that coalition's only grown. And there is an awareness, including among a corrupt establishment, that, look, if President Trump endorses against you, things are not going to go well for your future.
That's a great point, though, how it's not, that's how powerful it is. And folks, this is just an objective statement that's factual. His endorsement moves the political needle. Well, you can call it an opinion all you want, but the numbers back it up. But it's a great point you made that even the non-endorsement in a race or the hint of an endorsement is enough to move the tactical needle. There was one thing I saw last night about the Massie race, and I saw a number of people who are, I think on my side in this. I was not a Massie fan, as I said earlier in the show, for a number of reasons. However, a couple of folks said, well, listen, young voters really liked Massie. And I say, I absolutely capitulate that point. There are a lot of young voters who are going in this direction. However, I am not willing to capitulate to folks out there that this new, anti-Semitic strain of the party and this endless focus on the Jews and elsewhere is like the key issue we need to attract young voters. I'm not capitulating. Young voters are very smart. I just got off a call not that long ago on a business deal I'm working with a 26-year-old young man who just absolutely astounded me. I couldn't believe how smart this guy was. They're very young. I think the issue we're having now is that younger voters with, the generational problem with housing costs and things like that and inflation, they feel kind of left out of the market. They're worried about AI. It's up to us to come up for solutions. We shouldn't just ignore that because that is accurate. There is an appeal for people who are disgruntled and upset that feel like they've been left behind, who are looking for an outlet.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of components to this. One is that young people rightly distrust a lot of the institutions that are supposed to have been serving us for years. We've seen institutions betray us over and over and over again. You'd have to be an idiot to instantly trust any of these major institutions. You have to be. And I think young people are very wise to that. I think young people deserve more credit than they probably get for their wisdom on that subject. The other piece is look, fundamentally, any voter who's paying attention to what's happening in the United States of America is obsessed with this concept of how do we take care of our country first? And so what spills out of that? Concern about what our foreign entanglements look like. George Washington from the very beginning of our country was warning about messy foreign entanglements and not doing anything that comes at our expense. As a result, yes, there's conversations about places like Ukraine, Israel, NATO, that clearly I think can and should happen in a very healthy way. That's like, okay, is there anything that's coming at our expense? That's definitely happening out there. Some people take it too far. Some people go downright, as you point out, anti-Semitic. Garbage, just utter garbage. But real healthy debate, that's perfectly fine. My thing about Thomas Massie, the thing that drove me crazy here about Massie's a guy who I like that he was obsessed with the national debt. He has his little debt clock on his pocket. MIT engineer, guy's living off the grid, something kind of charming about all that. But then he comes along and he joins Blue Anon. He's breathing life into conspiracy theories about President Trump. He did a press conference, Dan, in the fall of last year, where there's people standing behind him holding up signs that say Donald Trump's a pedophile. And I'm looking at that going, what the hell is that? There's nothing healthy, productive, useful about that. All that's doing is breathing life into the very lunacy that has led now to multiple assassination attempts against President Trump. How about we just stop that garbage? And so I think when you start seeing that, I thought the writing was on the wall for Massie to be thrown out. The voters in Kentucky just did it. You're right. I think there are generational things that Republicans would do well to pay attention to. But don't for a moment, don't just reject the young people and their political sentiments and say, oh, they're a lost cause. That's how you lose as a political party. You have to take them seriously. And if they're getting their grievances wrong, you have to tell them why you have a better take.
Man, we have got to fight back against this stuff. The conservative and Republican movement has been the party of civil liberties for generations. It's just an objective fact. And we're never, that's the treehouse rules, man. You know, this is like a club. It's a party. You don't have to be here, but we're never going to change our values just for the sake of a few votes if it means tossing our morality out the window and out of the treehouse. We're not doing it. You know, that reminds me, though, I had a guest on yesterday, John Alpert, has a book out called Therapy Nation. He's a psychotherapist. He has a lot of patients, and he was talking about how a lot of these liberal patients come in and they just can't divorce their political life from their personal life. They internalize this TDS, this Trump derangement syndrome. He's like, Dan, it's a very real thing. And that's what leads to what you just said, this explosion in violence. And that's why I covered early in the show some of this rhetoric by Hakeem Jeffries and others about, we're going to break you guys. Like everything's a Manichaean end of the world fight. Obviously the Nazi fascist rhetoric, Trump's a pedophile, all this crazy nonsense. You have to understand, like you're talking to a group of people, Vince, that don't have the coping mechanisms people like you and I have. You and I live this stuff every day. If there was anyone whose life was going to be destroyed by politics that don't go their way, it should be us. It's like you and I are like the owners of like the Yankees and they lose the World Series or something. We should be the ones so upset we're lashing out all over the place. Yet I think conservatives, due to faith, family, and their faith in communities there, they have that release valve that sadly not all, but a lot of liberals just don't have.
I think there are a couple elements to why you have this kind of emotional control. I think part of this is just like, one, belief in God, like a sense of the eternal, realizing that it's not all about this life, that this is not an end-all be-all. I'm not God, and I'm living according to his plan, or I hope I do. I try to. So that's one that calms me down a bit from thinking everything is some sort of existential crisis. Another is I'm a husband and I'm a father. If I was being a psychopath all the time, my family would fall apart. One of my primary jobs in my household is I'm an emotional mitigator. I'm here to calm down the chaos. I'm here to bring some stability to the room. I'm trained by virtue of my relationships to just be like, all right, let's settle down. Let's figure out what the hell's going on. That's kind of the thing. This is actually why I think marriage and fatherhood is very good for men. Not only is it just great to have this in your life, it improves you. It improves you dramatically. And it's sad to see, you see, like I made some judgments, some snap judgments this week about, those women who were standing on the steps of City Hall, rooting on Luigi Mangione, assassinating the United Healthcare CEO. Yeah. It was so sick. And of course, Mamdani gave them press passes to do it. Like, yeah, sure, go out there and tell people how it's great to assassinate people. But I instantly made some judgments about their personal lives. They're sad. They're alone. They don't have real parenting in their life. They've got some sort of daddy issues. Like there's something psychologically missing for these people. And they're filling it with this chaos as they're standing on the steps rooting on the destruction of our society. Like I think normal people with skin in the game, who have children to look after, who have families to care for, who have something worth preserving, they're not like this. Like normal people, they're not interested in advancing chaos. They want order because they'd like to leave a wonderful world to their children. It is sad to see what's happening, but Dan, I continue to hold out hope that we can change it. This is why I fight for election integrity and why I say so often to pray for your country, because I do think that the power of prayer really can lead people away from that madness.
I hope so. One of my favorite books, Andrew Wilkow loves it too. It's Revolt Against the Masses. It's just a fantastic book by Fred Siegel. I think he passed a couple of years ago, was it? But it's an amazing book. And it's basically a chapter by chapter story of the left's history of admiring the European aristocracy and the paternalism that comes along with being a progressive communist socialist. This idea that there are levels of freedom and the great unwashed, without the government, daddy government will fall apart. Conservatives think the opposite. Conservatives feel like there's the creator is endowed upon all of us inalienable rights. It's in our founding documents. And I think that's where a lot of this victimhood comes from. I even saw that will.i.am was on Bill Maher and was talking about how people in like the Congo, they look for a different level of freedom. Like, no, they don't. Like there's universal values of freedom. And I think that's where a lot of this, violence and victimhood comes from, because they feel that way. Their daddy is government, that they don't need a family. Like they don't need to have kids. Reproductive care means abortion to them, not actually loving a child. And that's where I think you get this rage and anger, just to harp on your point. Having said that, while we're on the topic is will.i.am, I played a clip yesterday of a red carpet at a movie, a bunch of Hollywood goofball celebrities. Honestly, I'd never heard of. I'm not playing games. I just didn't know who they were. I got to see more movies, I guess. Talking about the evils of capitalism. And this is the kind of stuff that appeals to young people, but not to sane people like you and I. Because all you have to do is ask a simple question. What component of capitalism are you renouncing right now? Is it the private property component? Is it the price component? Would you rather rationing? What part are you renouncing? And they just can't answer the question.
I totally agree. And the irony, of course, is that usually the thing that they hate is corruption. Usually, if you really boil it down to like what's the thing that's actually hurting the country, it's like cronyism, corruption. It's where the government interferes with the market. And that's the thing they don't realize. This is why, I'm constantly asked about by conservative parents about their kids. Like, how do I tell my kid that Trump's not evil? Trump's not evil. And I because it's just sometimes, although more and more young people like Trump these days, but it has been in the past that a lot of young people are just being trained, propagandized into believing this. And I say, look, right now they're skeptical of Trump. They see him as a powerful person and they think he's corrupt, whatever it is that they think about him. You're not going to convince them right away to love Trump. You might not be able to do that ever. But just ask them to widen the lens. Just set their sights on all of these institutions and figure out to what extent are they corrupt? To what extent is this company in bed with government at our expense? To what extent are we being hurt by these other big power centers? You should cultivate this skepticism in young people. But this idea that you would attack capitalism, fundamentally, there's no economic system is going to be perfect. The best one we found so far is capitalism. Capitalism has been the absolute best for lifting people out of poverty, for keeping people alive, for helping them to endure the elements, for bringing people to levels of wealth of all skin colors that have never been before seen in world history. Capitalism is the best damn system for lifting people out of that. And the people who are attacking it are just doing it merely for the power purposes, specifically of the Democrat Party. And we have to call that out for what it is.
Yeah, you can't get emotional about this. You have to look at the spreadsheets. I say to people all the time, don't get emotional about candidates, get emotional about results. And once you start to look at it through that lens, that aperture, you'll see that beautiful vista out there, that freedom of markets, which is all capitalism is, all that it produces. I'll end with this one because I know it's something you had discussed on the 8 a.m. show. Check them out every day, rumble.com/Vince, 0800 Eastern Time, live with a video on demand anytime. Ken Paxton, obviously a hot Senate race running against communist James Tallarico. Paxton, huge endorsement. He's running against incumbent John Cornyn yesterday. I don't think a lot of folks saw that coming. I think a lot of people thought when there was an announcement yesterday, there was going to be an announcement about endorsement. I saw all over Twitter. I can't believe Trump's going to go for Cornyn. And man, he throws like the knuckleball, not even the curveball, endorses Paxton, obviously carries a lot of weight in that race. It's not a fait accompli yet. However, as we addressed earlier, it's a very powerful endorsement. Yeah. I contrast it with the Massie race because a lot of people who are angry about Massie losing, like, well, Trump demands total loyalty. Well, that's just total bullshit. He does not demand loyalty. He was on stage yesterday with Mark Cuban because he's trying to lower drug prices and he feels like he's got a partner. But I think he also understands the feelings of the base. I think that's what happened with the Paxton endorsement. The base is very strongly behind Ken Paxton. So it kind of was like a compare and contrast yesterday.
Okay, so there's a lot in here, and all of us, anyone who thinks about President Trump, you psychoanalyze him a lot. I think it's just we all do it. We're like, what is he thinking? What is he doing? How's he operating? But here's one of the conclusions I've made through the years. 2 points on what you just said. One, Donald Trump believes in human potential more than almost anybody I've ever seen in American politics, and he never gets credit for this. And here's why I say this. Because even to this very day, as much as he attacks like the fake news media, the enemy of the American people, the New York Times, he still calls Maggie Haberman like every week to talk to her. Now, why does he do that? The answer is because he believes in the end he can win her over. He still believes in the end that he can win over some of his worst enemies and that they will join him in his fight for this country. So in a way, as much as he's demonized as a guy, he's like, he's a dictator, he's treating everybody like crap. Actually, he, more so than almost anybody in American politics, believes in the potential of even his enemies to finally come to his side. So that's why you see Mark Cuban standing next to him on stage. The other is that Donald Trump appreciates the feedback loop that he gets from his base. He listens. President Trump takes input. You know this as a guy who's worked closer with him than most of the people who are listening to you right now. You've seen him up close. He takes feedback. He asks for feedback. He wants to know what people think about what he's up to. I'm reminded, if you go back in time, when he was standing on a rally stage and he started to use the phrase "drain the swamp" for the first time to refer to Washington, D.C. That was not his phrase. Somebody else on his campaign came up with "drain the swamp," and he didn't think much of it. He thought it was, I don't really like it. It's all right, whatever. But he used it on stage. And the reason I know this is because he literally told this story on a rally stage. And he said once he saw the audience reaction, that they loved the expression "drain the swamp," he was all in. He's like, well, the base loves it. The people love it. I'm doing it. And so he started doing it over and over and over again. This Ken Paxton, John Cornyn thing that we just witnessed is one of the most amazing political sequences that you and I will ever see. President Trump was on the verge, according to all public reporting, of endorsing John Cornyn. That was in all the media outlets. He's about to do it. He's about to do it. That was earlier this year. And when that news story came out, the base rebelled. They went crazy. They were all over Truth Social telling the president of the United States, don't do this. Endorse Ken Paxton, excuse me. Don't endorse Cornyn. Cornyn's establishment. He's going to sabotage you. You need your agenda passed. It was ubiquitous. Everybody was saying, go for Paxton. The president heeded this. And then Paxton pulled off one of the most miraculous rabbits out of the hat that I've ever seen. Right. He posted on X the following. He said, I am willing to drop out of this race if the Senate passes the Save America Act. That's the circumstance.
Right.
When he did that, it changed the ballgame. Because President Trump saw that and went, damn, that's who I want in the Senate. So he withheld his endorsement until yesterday. We have a week left in this big Senate race. And the president came flying in and gave that endorsement to Ken Paxton and said, look, John Cornyn's a good guy, but he hasn't been there when I needed him. Cornyn paid lip service to the Save America Act in these final weeks, but that's not good enough. And for the base, it's definitely not good enough because we can smell it. President Trump can smell it too. Cornyn's an establishment guy. They were trying to protect him. Tim Scott, John Thune, they were begging President Trump, please endorse Cornyn. He didn't listen to him. He listened to his base, and he endorsed Ken Paxton. And I think it's to our betterment as a country. It's going to be great. Ken Paxton's won a bunch of races already in Texas. He's won statewide races twice. So yeah, he's going to be great.
I played a clip about that earlier in the show, and I got to run, but I find that to be a really disingenuous criticism. The Wall Street Journal op-ed section lost their mind last night about this, saying how basically hinting that Cornyn was like a shoo-in and Paxton didn't have a good chance of winning. Paxton's won statewide. And when Donald Trump is endorsing in a state race where he realizes there are practicalities, a blue, if not purple state, he's been very practical and like, I get it. I have to win, and this person may not be the most diehard MAGA person. He's done that before. This is Texas, though. And he has faith in Texas voters that this guy's won a couple times. He's definitely the more conservative candidate. So I find that criticism to be just ridiculous.
How could he be more electable? Cornyn couldn't even win 50% of the vote in the primary. He's the incumbent Republican senator. He couldn't get 50%. So how is he more electable? That's a cover. That's a cover from the establishment. They had one of their guys. They can work him, and now they're losing him. And so they're trying to come up with some creative cover for why he would have been better. It's a lie.
Yeah, that's right. And Paxton, again, has won a couple times. It's not like he has no experience winning statewide in Texas. Vince Co-l-a-n-ese, the king of mornings on live streaming. Rumble.com/Vince is where you can find him. He's on demand anytime, but the live's the place to be. Join him in the chat. You can listen to him live on radio from 12 Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern every single day on stations across the country, including the great WMAL, where Vince and I both got our start in radio and content creation on the conservative side. Vince, thanks a lot. I'll see you on your radio show next Wednesday. Appreciate it.
Can't wait. Thanks, Dan.
You got it, folks. Vince Co-l-a-n-ese every day, 8 a.m. You also have Haley at noon. Haley Carania, rumble.com/Haley, 2 Ys, Hayley. Make sure to check her out. You got a great lineup. You got Vince at 8. You got Graham Allen at 9. You got me at 10. You got Crowder after me, Haley after Crowder at noon. It's a solid lineup. You don't have to go anywhere all day. You can listen live streaming throughout the day. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please download the Rumble app. It is absolutely free. If you want to watch on the web, you can do that too. Rumble.com/Bongino. Just click that follow button. You'll get a notification when we go live every day. It means the world. Thanks so much for turning out. Thanks for your support. I really appreciate it. Those numbers about our downloads, that just warms my heart. I am really honored to be part of this whole movement, folks. Thank you so much. I'll see you back here tomorrow.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Carania,
Host of Vince.
host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here
On the Bongino Report.
live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Weekdays at noon. If you miss it, no worries. The show will always be
Right here
and
and
anywhere you find podcasts. Thanks for watching.